to the Boxing Now podcast. I am your host, that dude named Dave. And my man to my left of me, but my right-hand man, Jorge. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Dave, man?
Hey, I'm happy to be here, man. Another episode, another day here for Boxing Now podcast, the BNP. We here to talk some boxing, baby.
Oh, yeah. It's looking forward to this weekend, man. Some exciting stuff this weekend, but also some exciting news in the world lately with some stuff that's breaking the airwaves.
Yeah, before we get started here, let's just go through the particulars here. If you're watching on YouTube, click on like and subscribe and click on the notification bell so you know a new episode's coming on here. If you're a Spotify fan, click on follow, then it comes up right away. And also, if you're watching on the Barn Burner app, Zingo app channel 250, click on heart and you can click on record too as well. So those are the ways to find out about us. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about, like I said, the preview on Caleb Plant. But first, what we're going to talk about here, I got to do this here.
Oh, yeah.
I had to do that here to start off here. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury is going to get it on.
All but confirmed, except for the site location. But the fight's pretty much, I think, a done deal. You already got Fury going out on Twitter basically saying, I'm going to knock out Joshua in 3 rounds. He's already talking. He's already talking it.
They are talking. So to give the details here, it's not just fodder anymore. Eddie Hearn and both Bob Arum had both came out publicly and said that the fight is a done deal. They've agreed on the splits, the money, everything as far as deal points has been figured out. The only thing, like we were stating before we started the show and where you were mentioning, is the site location and the date. As soon as you get a location, then you can figure out what day they want to put this fight on. It's going to be a 2-fight deal, they've already said. So, man, I am excited that we are actually going to have this fight. Like you see all this talk about, heavyweights fighting or, the politics come into play here. And for like the last 3 or 4 months behind the scenes, both sides really wanted this fight. And when both sides really want the fight and you don't really see too much talk about how one side doesn't want it, it's kind of quiet. That means it's a good thing happening. And that's what we're seeing here right now. This fight is signed, sealed, and delivered, except for the location and the date. And man, we're going to have an undisputed heavyweight champion after this.
Looking forward to it. I mean, it's one of those things where we haven't seen one in a long time. Klitschko's dominated for a long time that division, and we were deprived of seeing what that would have looked like, an undisputed champion at heavyweight. So this is a big deal for boxing in general. I mean, this affects the entire boxing world. I mean, usually your divisions that are the highlight divisions are, your welterweights, your middleweights, and your heavyweights. I mean, you haven't seen an undisputed title in a while for any of them. So this is a big deal.
Yeah, especially in the four belt era. So one of the things that was being talked about, like I said, the location. Because of COVID, that put a damper on many places. Now, originally, it was going to be in UK and Wembley when the initial talks of when Fury knocked out Deontay Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
We even joked around about even going to the UK to see a fight, 100,000 for something like that. But knowing the new restrictions that's going on because of the COVID, the second strain that's coming about right now, looks like the fight may happen in the Middle East right now. Middle East is finally throwing out the pocketbooks, and they're a little bit more liberal as far as like people in the stands, things of that nature. So Middle East maybe to play. Anthony Joshua, when he had his rematch with Andy Ruiz that last December, that was also in the Middle East.
Another I guess person to follow, just to kind of give you the idea that's going to most likely be in the Middle East, would be Dana White. The McGregor fight was last night. And in the post-conference, Dana had mentioned that they're looking to do future fights down in the Middle East. So, I mean, to me, where the UFC is going to, it makes sense that boxing is going to follow in that same direction. Wherever you can put a fight, where you can get people in the stands, that it makes sense. They'll do it there. So I can see this fight and probably even the rematch to be there until things clear up in the other parts of the world where we can hopefully get a fight back in the States or back at Wembley Stadium. But for now, I think the Middle East is the place to be right now to watch a fight and to have fans in the stands.
Yeah. And a few episodes back, we talked about the politics and the problems that could stop this fight from happening. Remember, we did our episode on fights we want to see for 2021.
Sure.
And one of the issues was Alexander Usyk being the WBO mandatory. And looks like finally the sanctioning bodies one by one cleared the way to let this fight happen. They didn't let politics happen that we normally see. Like, for instance, the WBA politics was out the way because Joshua's last fight was the mandatory. So no WBA. WBC, out the way because Dillian White, who was, in line, got knocked out by Provodnikov.
Mhm.
So that rematch is set now. So WC says there's no worry about that. The WBO, we're talking about Usyk right now.
Yep.
We found out that he might get a nice little king's ransom before he might even get into the ring with either one of the guys here. The WBO sanctioned interim fight between him and Joe Joyce.
Mhm.
So I know that he probably didn't want the sanctioned fight, but it allowed the WBO to try to keep to their rules to allow all four belts to be on the line at the same time. And then, of course, whoever's the winner of that fight would be next in line to fight for the unification after, Fury and Joshua.
Yeah, no, that's actually that's good for Usyk. He and wise to take it at this point. I mean, you're getting it, uh, Joel Joyce, which is probably from his point of view a good, probably good tune-up fight again for him, getting more acclimated with the heavyweight division. But you can step aside money to go with it too. So not only you get to
Mhm.
stay busy and show off your talent and stuff, and basically when the time comes when you start asking and demanding for that fight of the Fury Joshua winner, at least at this point you'll have an interim to go with it if you win it, and you already got step aside money to go with it, which is a pretty nice payday. So
Yeah.
nothing to complain about from Usyk there, and hopefully he takes it and doesn't complain about it, and we'll see what happens afterwards from their fights.
It seems like the dominoes are kind of falling in place for the heavyweight division. Um, and like I said, it's good to see the sanctioning bodies kind of saying, okay, we're not going to screw out just for the dollar. Of course, the biggest money is for the unification fight. They get a percentage; it's not a flat fee. The way they work it out when you have a multiple, belt holder.
Mm.
So we look at Usyk being the mandatory now for Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is, he's not special, but the guy can fight. Like people didn't think he was going to win in his last fight on ESPN a few months ago in the bubble, and he just grinded and he just kept putting the pressure and putting the pressure, so he got the knockout. So I mean, I believe he's like 35 years old. He's an old heavyweight, got in the game a little bit older, but he'd be a good test for Usyk. Being a big heavyweight.
Mhm.
So by seeing the WBO getting out of its own way, and then also to add, Deontay Wilder has a proposed fight. It's not, it's not guaranteed yet, but it looks like that he could be fighting Charles Martin coming up in the next few months here. He's a former IBF title holder who I think held the belt the shortest in heavyweight history. Never defended.
Yes, we
He
joked
won.
about that.
Yeah, we joked about that. I gotta say he won the belt because the guy he was fighting, I believe in 2015, twisted his knee and couldn't continue. And then 2 months later, he fought Anthony Joshua and got blasted
They
in
got
like two or
lasted.
three rounds. So he's a name, and I guess Wilder needs to get back off the pine with all the crazy mess he's been talking about.
Yeah, and it kind of lines things up with in the future in mind. You got Joshua and Fury all but ready to fight out this year. Hopefully, we get to talk about a fight that we hope to see now. Now, it might be more realistic than we maybe thought. While they're going against Usyk at some point, if they both win their fights and stuff, I mean, I can see that being a fight that I would pay to watch.
If they can cross party lines,
Yeah,
depending on Usyk's timeline, you can see that he's about his money now because how it started late in the game. He's under the same um um corner, you could say team as Lomachenko.
yeah,
His dad actually also trains him as well. If correct me if I'm wrong, I know they're part of the same team. So they're about their paper right now. He's like, he's going to get the step aside money plus that the tuna. I want to call it tuna fight mandatory, but it's going to be a 2 fight deal. So we're looking at a fight in the summertime and maybe a fight at the end of the year. That's going to allow for Usyk. Let's say that he's going to be the favorite against Joe Joyce. He wins that fight. That allows him to do at least one, interim title defense with that WBO title if he does win. I'm just saying hypothetically that he's going to be the favorite. Then we look at Deontay Wilder, and if he fights Charles Martin, and then knowing him, if he does come out that win, he might sit out for a while. And then maybe in 2022, I suppose we're saying that now, that's next year, 2022, we might see possibly if Usyk wants, from the zone and may fight on the PBC side. Or do we see Deontay Wilder just sit back and wait? It's like, I'm going to get the winner when those guys by next year anyway.
I could see both fighters taking a claim of if they win their respective matches that they don't run into each other right away, right? That they're waiting it out. But I would also think and I would hope that they kind of see that they're going to be in each other's way, trying to demand a fight from the winner there. I can see Wilder wanting to fight Usyk just to kind of dethrone the prospect of him being the next in line, right? And I think in this case, Usyk's got probably the leverage in this case, because if Usyk wins this fight, he'll be the mandatory for sure.
Oh, he's still in line. He's just taking a few dollars now because he made enough fuss to get another fight, interim belt, and then an extra payday.
Exactly.
Because technically, if he really want to be an ass, he can literally say, no, I am next. Yep. I'm going to get this belt, but he wouldn't get the payday though, because then Eddie Hearn had came out and said, we'll just give up all the belts. I forgot to mention that, because Usyk's side was playing so much hardball and they wanted this fight to happen. Now we know it's not as special if none of the belts were on the line, but everybody knows that Fury is the lineal champ. Yep. And everybody knows that Joshua is 1A and 1B right now. So Eddie Hearn came out a week ago and said, we'll get rid of all the belts. We don't need the belts then. This is going to be a big fight regardless. And so that put Usyk in his place, I think, because as soon as that happened, literally like 3 days later, we heard the WBO saying, here's this fight here.
Yep.
Because the WBO been losing money on this too.
Yep.
So everybody gets a cut. Like I seen once, I don't know how big the money is going to be. I seen a unification fight for Floyd Mayweather one time where that each belt sanctioning fee was over like $250,000. To sanction the fee alone for each belt. There's like 3 belts in the line.
Yep.
So that's close to $1 million in sanctioning fees. So WBO's like, hey, we can't have that. No. Come back, Eddie Hearn. Come back, Bob. We want that ESPN Plus. We want the WBO belt out there. Hey, Usyk, hey.
Usyk, go to the corner. Shh.
Quiet. Be quiet. Yo, we need this money.
Yep.
Hey, come on. Be a good boy.
Exactly.
Sit, boo-boo, sit. Good dog. That's an old line showing our age. But
oh man, I feel old now. You had to do that.
But I wanted to talk about this. We short-lived podcast and we talk a lot about the heavyweights, but the fact that this is going to happen this summer, all the crap that's going on with COVID, all the non-fights that we didn't see, and so we're seeing this being scheduled here. And I wish I could go to the Middle East, but we're going to have a fight party maybe here. Maybe we do a live show, a live pod on that. We're watching that. I think that would be dope.
Oh, man, if they're doing this at the Arab Emirates, I mean, that's going to be it's a nice, beautiful place over there.
I know, but
I've seen pictures, man.
Got to update the passport game. It just expired, so I got to update my passport right now. But that'd be kind of nice if we can get over there in the summertime, man.
Yeah,
we have a new connection in the WBC now, so we might can get if we can get out there, we got a credential.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice. You know what? That's look
at you. You have to think about that for a second.
Yeah, passport renewals on the list of things to do this year.
Oh, also I wanted to add too, this with Usyk and Joe Joyce, this will actually be a rematch because they actually fought each other in 2013.
Oh, at cruiserweight?
No, it was actually in the Super Series of boxing in cruiserweight. Yes, it's a Super Series of boxing, and it was a 5-round decision for Usyk. So it's literally an 8-year difference from their first fight here. So they're both completely different fighters from 8 years ago. We're different people from 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think Usyk's so hungry, man. I think he'll come there ready for that one.
Yeah, I mean, he is the favorite. I think he's gonna win, but I just, Joe Joyce, not many fights in his record, but he can be a spoiler.
Yeah, he might be looking to bite an ear, take some tainted meat, whatever he's gonna do.
I don't think he'll do all that, but I hope not. God, dizzle.
Hey, sometimes we want to play spoiler. It might be your last fight. You say, hell with it.
So on that note, we talk about the heavyweights here. So let's transition here. We have a fight this weekend.
Yes, we do. This Saturday, the Battle of the Calebs.
Oh, yeah, it is actually. I'm looking at the name. I didn't even realize that. The Battle of the Seas. Yeah, you know what though? That's what you get, man.
There you go. Plant versus Trout. And that is going to be a interesting fight. So it's this Saturday on, I believe, on PBC, right?
Yeah, Fox on PBC.
Fox on PBC. And interesting parallels with this fight here that, after doing some analysis on the past fight. So Plant is the younger fighter. He's a younger fighter. He comes in, I think, with a 1-inch shorter reach advantage. They're about the same height, though. And Trout is, I think, 37 at this point. So he's definitely a gatekeeper status. But the man's still a student of the game. And here's the receipts to go with that. So back, I think it was in 2015, correct me if I'm wrong, where he fought James DeGale. So James DeGale had just come back from an 11th-month layoff from an injury that he had. And Trout came to that fight very
2017, I believe.
2017, thank you.
It might be sorry. My notes say one thing. It may be 2015. I got multiple notes here. I apologize on that.
That's all
No,
right.
2017. I'm right. Yes, sorry.
There you
I
go.
got it.
I wanted you to be
sorry,
right.
people. Sorry,
I
people.
wanted you to be right. In any case, Trout fought a James DeGale who just came off an 11th month layoff, and Trout, a student of the game, came like a student. This man studied, did his research, and gave DeGale the business.
Yeah, he did.
Pressured him. Typically a slow starter. We had the privilege of watching him going against Daniel Jacobs back in 2015 at the UIC Pavilion.
Yes, we did.
We saw that on the PBC. We saw that live,
Mhm.
and he was a slow starter in that fight, and Jacobs won that fight by TKO. This fight with DeGale, he was a slow starter the first 2 rounds and turned on the pressure and never looked back. And that was in DeGale's home country against the hometown broadcast, and won a majority decision, which I think should never have been a majority decision to begin with.
I hated watching that fight, listening to the broadcast. It was, you know what? That's been a running theme for us talking about the broadcast and boxing. You know, after HBO, everybody else is like, man, it's just
homerism. So much homerism. I mean, in 1 minute you cannot contradict yourself between I think DeGale took the round and brought it home for me. Oh, then within the same minute say, I gotta stay out of the corner though.
You know what? I want to be ringside to call a fight so that I can see what they're seeing, because most of these cats do not know how to call a damn fight.
Yeah, I want to be a broadcaster for the broadcaster. I want to broadcast everybody else's broadcast.
I think I could be a broadcast whisperer
and just kind of call them out on their BS.
Oh God, it is.
I mean, I get it. Especially if the fight's meant to go 12 rounds and it looks like it's going 12 rounds, you need to say things, but it makes some sense though.
It was bad.
It was bad. But in any case, in that fight, that is a good example of what we talked in our pre-meeting about, was that this Plant Trout fight, it could be a trap fight. Because Caleb Plant hasn't fought since February of last year, 2020. He beat a German by the name of Feigenbutz. He Feigenbutz, all of his fights were in Germany. I'll say in Europe for the most part, right? I think the majority of his fights though were all in Germany though, and he fought basically European competition. Comes over to the States for his first fight against Caleb Plant, and he basically got the boxing lesson from a well-trained fighter like Plant. Plant knocked him out with a TKO, I believe, in the 10th round, but he probably could have finished him off sooner. Plant's got great hand speed. Like I said, younger fighter. It'll be, I think, 20 going up to 28 this year. Might be 27 so when he fights Trout, but he's a good fighter. He's actually got good head movement, good trainer, listens to his trainer, so you can tell that they've got a good relationship going in the corner there. So Plant is. He hasn't fought in 11 months. That's the similarities that I'm trying to get at.
Because of COVID and everything. So that's going to be a problem for a lot of fighters coming up too now. Like, it's good that he's fighting now 11 months. For some championship fighter or title holders, that's not that bad. But we'll see here, especially with no fans. You come off that kind of layoff and then an empty arena. I mean, or I don't know if there's going to be minimal people in the arena there. Start doing that in certain states, of course.
Sure.
But that's a good point. And like I said, Caleb, he is a former title holder. So this is not a situation where that Plant is fighting someone just to get the rust off, just to get through this fight, get through the title defense because of the riches maybe down the line at the end of the year.
Sure.
No, this is a legit title defense against a former title holder who, in that James DeGale fight, he chipped his tooth. He knocked out multiple teeth. I think he broke his nose. He was a bloody mess in that fight. Oh my God. I mean, both guys, man, they gave each other the business.
Yeah, and Trout is not typically what you would call a knockout fighter.
No.
All of his early knockouts at that point in his career were early fights against a bunch of guys that he was going up against in his career early on. But he came against James DeGale with a game plan, and he looked like a different Trout than everybody else has seen him in the past, especially from what we saw when he fought against Daniel Jacobs. He went from slow starter to I'm going to be in your face for the next 10 rounds, and that's exactly what it was. So he's probably one of the more legitimate gatekeepers / spoilers of a possible derailing an up and coming fighter like Plant. So this is going to be an interesting fight because, like I said, Plant hasn't fought in close to a year now. So this will be interesting for Plant to see if he's prepared for a guy who's probably prepared for him well as well.
Yeah, and let's add to when we say gatekeeper, he's a legit fighter. Like, his record is 31-4-2 with 19 KOs. So when we say gatekeeper, he's not, like I always use the name brand, the special. He's not Whole Foods. He's not Joe Lasco. He's not the big no, but he can beat anybody outside the top 10. And at any given night, he can beat a title holder outside of Canelo. And on any given night, like we can see a situation where a 12-round decision could go for him over Plant. I could see a decision that he could beat a Billy Joe Saunders
Mhm.
on a given night. So this is a tough fight for Caleb Plant, but it's also a showcase fight too, because he's not on Showtime. Showtime, being a premium cable network channel, they have 20 to 30 million subscribers. When you're on Fox, you're in every home.
Mhm.
Every home. So if you have Comcast, DirecTV, Xfinity, whatever, you turn to Fox on PBC Saturday night, you're seeing him. So they're putting him front and center.
Mhm.
Why? The big prize in September is Canelo Alvarez. So for Caleb Plant, the layoff, he not only needs to look good at it, because that will elevate him Mexican Independence Weekend. Because, like I said, it's already been confirmed. Like I said, the big prize is Canelo because he's fighting February 27th in Miami. After that, if he wins, which he should, May 8th, Cinco de Mayo weekend, Billy Joe Saunders. Then, like I said, Canelo's game plan is to get all 4 belts. So Caleb Plant not only has to look good this weekend, the future is here for him now.
Mhm.
He has the chance not only to maintain his title, but become the undisputed super middleweight champion by September. That is huge for him to be in this position right now. Far as on Fox, all eyes are on him. The pressure is on him now for him to perform.
Yeah, he's got a lot of things on it because for 11 months now. You basically got thrusted into the limelight, right? You got a potential payday plus a good chance to hold, and a not good chance. He's got a fighter's chance because he's definitely doesn't look. From what I've seen, he is not. He ain't no bum. He ain't gonna be no. Now, depending how if he wins this fight and goes against Canelo, he's. I hope he doesn't do like Smith, like Caleb Smith, and actually gives up before the fight even starts.
Oh yeah.
Right? All kidding aside, but judging from what I saw the last, when he won the title from Mike Lee, that was his first defense against Feigenbutz. He looked good. He looked good. His hands were fast, good movement. More of a fight manager with his corner. He's definitely trained and managing the fight for 12 rounds. So he ain't trying to TK. He ain't trying to knock you out in the first few rounds. He is definitely trying to wear you down and look to knock you out in the later rounds if the opportunity presents itself. That's the type of fighter he is. With that said, he's not somebody to sleep on. He's got good head movement, good hand speed.
Yeah.
Definitely the younger fighter coming into this fight and a future Canelo fight. So it's I would say watch the fight this Saturday, folks. If he goes ahead and wins the fight, you'll kind of see where we're thinking that Canelo fight might be a lot more interesting fight than what Smith provided as a challenge.
Yeah, I really hope so too. And excuse me, like I said, a lot is going to happen in these next few months that's going to settle this whole year. Like politics normally, we've been discussing, dictate so many fights that we don't see the fights we want to see. And that's why we had that last episode of fights we want to see. It seems like in middleweight and super middleweight, the dust is kind of being cleared by Canelo being not only being the money man, but also being the top guy, set out a calendar. Said this is what he wanted to do, and everybody needs to follow suit. And by him being a promotional free agent, is allowing this to happen, but it's also allowing these other fighters to try to get into play for these bigger fights now that we're anticipating now that, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't talked about super middleweight. Take away Canelo out the picture. We're not even talking about these fights like that. Canelo generates that interest right now, and these other fighters are stepping their game up to want to be in that interest now.
It's interesting. Super middleweight, we haven't talked about maybe like this, like personally, me and you, since Calzaghe and Kessler
and Andre Ward. Super
Ward.
6 2009.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just be honest. 2009, 2010, 2011 status is the last time me and you had serious questions, comments, arguments, whatever on 168.
Exactly. And that division at that time was about 8 deep. And it was
because of Super 6.
Not just because of Super 6. Then you had Joe Calzaghe, who was not in the Super 6. He was outside of that already, looking to move to 175.
He didn't last long. Jermaine Taylor for 160, a couple guys, Arthur Abraham during that time period.
Yeah, it was actually an interesting division to talk about from a boxing point of view.
And Andre Ward was a nobody at the time. He was just a young American that no one gave any credence to.
Exactly. But he went through the gauntlet, proved himself all the way up, and that man's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So by Canelo not being about the BS, saying this is what I'm going to do here, and being a free agent that's not going to stop him, and the fact that he's going to fight as much won't be a a factor in stopping certain things here. So, like I said, he's going to fight February. Then we got May, and then we're talking about Caleb Plant here. A couple of people that's coming in the picture now. We talk about Jamar Charlo. He took a Twitter sabbatical, and he came back and said, "Hey, why is everybody in my mentions for?" Because Bernard Hopkins talked him up.
Of course he did.
Oh my God! So we're talking about all these middleweights and super middleweights, and Bernard Hopkins even mentioned that's the fight that I wanted to see: Charlo and Canelo, even before the Golden Boy splits. And Charlo is doing the right thing now. He's talking it up as well. And then you want to add in the picture that, Demetrius Andrade. We
were pre-meeting. We discussed this. We weren't talking about him. We were not talking about him. Come on,
look. He was on Max Unboxing. I lost my camera. I'll come back to it. He was on Max Unboxing, and Matt gave him the platform. He says, "No, I gotta give Matt Kellerman credit. He's taking Max Unboxing since the new year now, and is killing all the divide. He's having everybody from every fashion to come on ESPN now. He had Chris Maddox on there. He had Sean Porter on from PBC.
Yeah.
He had, he's doing that. Then he had Andre on there, and he's like, he said that he called out Charlo, offered him $7 million, and they said no. And then he said that he'll take the $5 million for Canelo or even take less. And I'm like, he's a good fighter. The point I come back to this is guys are finally talking. Boxing needs talkers. There is not a league, right? So guys are individuals in their sports. So they got to do what they got to do so that the casual fan knows who they are. For us, we can do this podcast and get people to know about them, but it's going to take more than us. They got to talk the game up.
I think at this point, they have to talk the game up. And for one simple reason, COVID took everything away. COVID took basically a year's worth of promoting through YouTube, social media itself, getting fights out there to put out. I mean, every fight you put out, you get a fight. Every time a fighter gets out there, that's content. That is guaranteed content. You are the fighter. You are the show. You're trying to put out your best content on that night, that best performance. And that's what you're basically driving as your self-promotion. The actual fights you win, the fights you do compete in. If you lose the fight, did you compete well? So that way you can get another fight going on in the future. That you lose a whole year of that, you've got nothing else at this point but to talk. So COVID, I will say, did two things that's helping things move along with boxing this year. It actually is killing the politics on the business side. And now it's like, everybody suffered. All the promotional entities suffered. All the companies that usually broadcast all this stuff suffered. So at this point, everyone's just like, shut the hell up and just make fight happen. Make fights happen. And the fighters are like, all right, we're going to do our part to basically promote it. We've had sidebars. You know how I feel about it, but I think in this instance, I'm putting myself in the fighter's shoe. If I had a year of COVID where I couldn't promote myself through my own hands, you've given me no other choice. I got to open my mouth now.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad they're doing this now, but I just have to mention that because I'm appreciating Max Unboxing right now. It seems like COVID now has kind of helped the boxing game. We're low on the sport, but it seems like now boxing is fine. Getting out of his own way.
COVID broke the politics of it.
It's getting out of his own way because yes, these guys want to make a certain amount of money and they got to do what they got to do. Like they're set to a certain standard, but they're realizing that, hey, we got to do these extra things here to get paid now because what we're doing in the past is not going to work right now.
Yeah, you can't. The days of just COVID basically also eliminated garbage fights, right? So then basically, when you had
unless you want to get paid $15.
Exactly. If you want to get paid cheap, you can get paid cheap. No one stops you from getting a payday, right? If you want to fight 5 times a year and fight bums 5 times a year to make $200,000 for the year, that's on you. But both of these guys are basically trying to get those junk fights out of the way, basically by sidestepping and saying, "No, I want the better fight. I want the bigger fight. I want the bigger payday." Now, why? Because I lost the whole freaking year of boxing.
Yeah.
So basically, I'd rather fight that guy for $500,000 to make up for the $200,000 I would have made the year before. So I need to get last year's money back in one fight.
Yeah. And that's what Canelo's doing right now because he had the big contract. 11 fights, 350, whatever it was for DAZN, and then it all got the debacle of Oscar De La Hoya and the two contracts. So he only got 3 fights out of that deal. So you look at Canelo, he's like, he's looking at himself as a multi-millionaire, established himself as the money man behind Floyd Mayweather, and he probably were spending money, probably did some investments on banking on certain fights, and he didn't have that.
Yep.
So he's like, yo, name me a fighter of his stature, Like when we think about Canelo, we think about Floyd, we think about Manny Pacquiao, you think about Cotto, you think about the Andre Ward, Ward's not a money guy, but you know what I'm saying though. You think about those guys, they don't come back in less than 2 months.
Yep.
He's like, look, I need this check, and then I'm gonna come back in 3 months in May. Then I'm gonna come back another month in September.
Exactly.
So I'm leading to this to say, who would you rather? Let's say that he comes through this skate, he beats Avni Yildirim. I think I pronounced that. I think
you have messed up that name 4 or 5 times now in the last couple of weeks.
Avni.
We'll just go with
it.
We'll just go with it.
He beats him. Then he beats Billy Joe Saunders. Then Caleb Plant here. Who would you want to see? Let's say there's a December fight or Cinco de Mayo. Let's say if Canelo says, okay, I'm good. Jamal Charlo or Triple G3?
At this point, Charlo.
Yeah.
Charlo, because Triple G, I've already, I said, Triple G will call out Canelo till he's blue in the face if he wants to. I don't see it happening. I see Canelo saying, I'm going to fight you when you're 40. Just to get you out of the way one last time, and I'll make sure I knock you out this time.
Yeah.
Because you'll be old as dirt.
Oh, yeah. So I can see Canelo waiting him out. I think the third fight will eventually happen because the zone is doing everything possible to make Canelo happy right now.
Oh, yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Oh, they're happy. Believe me, they're going to be happy. And
they need him too. With COVID being a new entity in the U.S. and you're trying to sell content on a monthly subscription basis, you need him right now.
Yeah.
So you can know behind the scenes they've been smoothing things. Like, hey, baby, don't worry. We got you, Canelo.
I got the Vaseline. Come on, 2 hands.
We're going to wipe this down. We're going to get you right. I hate that I do that right now. But hold on. That's on me. Oh. I got to do that to myself there.
Oh, no. Where's the other one, man, with the birds? There we go. Thank you. You need that one, too.
I can give myself the gas face. So
give me you went there.
Yes, I did. But I want to see Charlo too, because I think at this point in Triple G's career, we're going to see. I hate to say this. I think Triple G's going to get destroyed next time. Because we know it's not going to happen no time soon. The earliest is December.
The fighting trends for Triple G, he's already on the downside of his career. You can already see it now.
And like we broke down, the fact that Canelo stood in the pocket all 12 rounds last fight, and it might be 2 years removed from the next fight if they do fight again, at least. If Canelo was sitting in the pocket, then imagine him sitting in the pocket now.
Yep.
And then Triple G slippage. And then he only had just the one fight in 2020. And like I said, I thought he lost the fight against Dividends. I pronounced that bad. Yes, I did on purpose. But Charlo gave him the whooping, like I said.
Yeah.
So I like I said, I'll just roll this back up here, that Canelo's put a timeline here that it makes me interested in other fighters that I probably just tuned in just to be tuning in. But now I'm watching because there's interest now. There's stakes there.
Yeah. He's put a blueprint together that allows for the super middleweight division to be interesting without watching Canelo fight, right? So Caleb Plant's a great example. This Saturday is a good fight to watch because that basically is a lead into a future fight with Canelo. And that's without knowing what happens with Canelo. God forbid he gets injured or gets sick or something that would actually postpone his blueprint, right? I mean, right now he set the roadmap. I'm all for it. Everybody that's in his way to be a fighter, an opponent against him, those are the guys I'm going to be interested in watching, right? Yeah. So I want to watch the Billy Joe Saunders. I want to watch the Plants. I want to see what's going on, especially the super middleweight division with the rest of the fighters, because it's starting to stack up. Again, there's fighters that are unranked right now that I'm honest opinion should be starting to get ranked soon. Benavidez is still in there. Berlanga, my guy, he's moving
I was waiting for you to bring him up. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with watching a professional career of 16-minute long video of 16 knockouts.
16 minutes of
exactly. Just I mean, and it starts from the first fight, knocks him out about the 2-minute 30 mark, and then everything after that was smaller.
It's Tyson-esque. When you watch his career,
he's Puerto Rican Mike Tyson. That's what they're calling him now.
I mean, because when you look at Tyson's early career, like on ESPN Classics, when on Friday nights, it's classic Tyson reruns, right? And then you watch the whole hour from 7 to 8 o'clock and see like Tyson's first 28 fights.
You get half his career basically with anything from the first to the third round, but it's basically nice half hour
with commercials.
Yep.
28 fights in an hour, and that's what we're seeing with him right now. 16 rounds, 16 fights. I hope his next fight he gets more rounds in, but he's in the picture too now. Like we mentioned, young career, knocking everybody out. When you see knockouts, you're going to be automatically drawn. But when you got the big dog in Canelo, we're already putting that parallel there. Canelo's Mexican. He's Puerto Rican. He's your Rican brethren. You know how that is about when it comes to the Ricans and the Mexicans.
I don't see how Canelo can never entertain doing a fight with him on May, June, or September. I really don't care. Where you put the fight at.
It's either going to be May, June, or September.
You can put it in Vegas. You can put it in Madison Square Garden. It don't matter. The place is going to sell
Texas.
out. Or Texas. It's going to blow up. The place is going to blow up. It's going to be huge. And believe me, it's going to be so. You can sell it. It sells by itself. Just those two. Just Canelo, Berlanga, Mexico, Puerto Rico. It sells by itself.
I can see. Know what though? At this rate, I think next year.
It could be next year.
Next year will be the earliest. But at Canelo's timeline, barring injuries, it's possible.
Yep, Berlanga's already said it. He knows it himself. He has to build up rounds. So that usually means one of two things. You need to find a more sturdier opponent that you can essentially go 12 rounds with. Because he's not doing 10 more rounds anymore. He's been doing 12-round fights now. They're just not getting past the first round. It's not his fault.
They can't, even when he doesn't hit them clean, they can't handle the power. It's like a thudding sledgehammer. Even when you block it, he's hitting you with.
Folks, I'm high on Edgar Berlanga for a lot of reasons. First of all, as a Puerto Rican, there aren't ever any Puerto Ricans at this weight class.
No.
Ever. And
that's what makes Canelo special too right now. From the Mexican side. Exactly. Especially on the Puerto Rican side.
So Canelo, when he started his career, he was at welterweight, and he's going to probably end up his career probably at light heavyweight. Probably no more than that.
That's the heaviest he's going to go.
Berlanga started off at middleweight. This boy is still growing. He's going to end up at heavyweight. He's not in
good shape. Have you seen this midsection here when you watch him fight? He has rolls here. So he has the ability, if he got with the right strength and conditioning coach and basically took that time to implement that with his boxing style, he could go down to 160 or a strong 175 at his weight. Like, you look at that, he's young, so you see so much fat on him. Like, he's not defined yet. He is still a work in progress. So you could literally see him go between three divisions if he got the right strength and condition coach.
I would hope in some cases, I hope in this instance he doesn't. I hope he stays on the track that he's on for a couple of reasons. But like I said, Berlanga, no Puerto Ricans ever started off his career in my opinion, in middleweight and maybe ends his career at heavyweight. That's his trajectory. Berlanga's going to end his career at heavyweight. He's a young man right now, very young man. I believe he's 23.
Yeah, I think he's like 6'2",
6'1",
6'2" ish.
The boy is gonna fill up nicely all the way to
depending
heavyweight.
On his career, cruiserweight is not out of the question.
Oh no, cruiserweight's gonna be there, and like I said, he'll probably at the very least he'll be a very light heavyweight, like a Wilder type,
like
a lean heavyweight.
I'm glad you brought this up because Andy Ruiz. I mean, like I said, we're talking about Latino fighters right now here. Like, we don't see Mexican. We never seen a Mexican heavyweight.
Yeah.
Champion before, of course, we discussed that already. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But the point I'm saying though, like, Latino fighters are not normally in these higher weight divisions. You normally see them in the lower weight divisions up to what? Even Tito was pushing his limits at middleweight.
They usually are. By the time Cotto got to middleweight, he's already the power's not there.
Cotto wasn't it was just circumstances and timing, a reason why he was even a middleweight.
But
any other time period in history, he would stay at 154. Never goes above.
He's basically at that point, he doesn't have the strength to carry up to middleweight, but he's got at least the know-how, the experience and stuff. And that's all basically that was carrying him at 160 was experience. Nothing else after that. Even at junior middleweight, the power wasn't there anymore.
Right.
So,
and he started at 140. And he was a solid 140.
Solid 140, yep.
40. I mean, he could have stayed there. I mean, like I said, 140 junior welterweight is not a money division. That was his stepping stone division before he went to welterweight.
Exactly.
Basically. But if junior welterweight was a hot division, if it was a legacy division, he'd probably been at 140 a lot.
Yeah,
because that was probably his best weight until he fell out went to welterweight.
All the guys at 140 at that time, it was basically your double A version of welterweight, and it was good. It was good. Actually,
there were times when they were teasing the Floyd fight, but Aaron would never put that on.
Yep.
Because that's when Aaron was with Floyd back then, too. I mean, like, you had so many things in play. But like you said, we don't see fighters, Puerto Rican or Mexican, or in Latino fighters in general, at the higher weight classes. So to see Berlanga at his size and all that fat, like I said, I just state the fact that if he just got with the right coach, he could have more fights. Like I said, the Charlo brothers, I'm just adding them in there. Like Demetrius Andre, we just mentioned them, or you stay at 160. Even if you get that coach and then you make that fat into muscle and be a stronger fighter, could go to 175 right now easily. And when because if you have that much power, 168, that 7 pounds, I think would be a lot better for him if he was able to make that muscle work.
I mean, at this point, he's making the muscle work. I mean, he's looking. I mean,
he will be able to generate more power. You could tell he's an unfinished product. I'm saying, if you look
at
his body,
he's still developing.
So I'm saying, like, if you have the right strength and conditioning coach, and then you add that with his boxing skills, he could be more dangerous. I'm saying they'll be more powerful.
Sure,
because the fact that he's so young and that his body is not using everything that is supposed to be at this point right now.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and at this point, like I said, he started off at middleweight, did a couple fights that, and then super middleweight right away. He's
big boy.
He's a big boy. He's going. I see him in his mid-30s, ending out at heavyweight. Maybe gets a title chance out there, but he's going to end his career there, and that's going to be a rarity for me. I've never seen that in my boxing experience watching. So I'm looking forward to following this young man's career. There's a reason why I'm high on it. I was watching this with my dad, catching the trainings that he's videotaped and put on YouTube and the fights. My dad sees it. My dad sees exactly what I'm seeing. So, like I said, anybody who's listening to this podcast, Edgar Berlanga, I'm telling you,
he's on him.
Be high on him, because 2022, it's going to be Mexico, Puerto Rico again. It's going to be somewhere between Texas and Madison Square Garden and maybe Vegas.
No, in a perfect world, in 2022, if Canelo fights Jamal Charlo and Berlanga, Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Weekend, that would be perfect. Now, by me saying that, you say I'm predicting that Canelo could beat Charlo. Either way, I'm just saying one of those two fights or both fights happen next year. That would be so amazing, because we're seeing the trajectory on Berlanga, and we know where Charlo's at right now at 160, and he's just building his resume now. I mean, clearly, Triple G is the best middleweight right now, just off resume, and his only loss was to Canelo. But I honestly feel that if Charlo had a chance against Triple G, that fight may not be pretty.
I think Charlo would give Triple G
I think it's not going to be pretty. I think it's not going to. Right now, of course, I think it could be 50-50 right now. Let's say if they were in discussions to fight and happen this year or early next year, I think Triple G loses.
I'm not saying I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Like I said, it's starting to show that he's in the downside of his career now. So I think he still makes the fight interesting. I don't see him winning that fight. I think I think this is where somebody younger gets him.
Yeah, especially with his height and his size and his length too. That's what intrigues me about both Berlanga and Charlo. They're both over 6'1".
Yeah,
they're tall. So when we talk about Charlo, he's going to go to 168, and I see him finishing at 175. I don't see him going to cruiserweight. He has a big frame, but he's lean and physique. He's built more of like a basketball player-esque. So I see him probably finishing off at 175, but he is tall and strong. We talk about Berlanga being big. He's big too. Him and his brother. I mean, his brother at 154, how they're so in physical peak shape to fight at 154 and then 160. And you can see them filling up to those weight classes there. In the next year or so, you can't deny them too as well.
Yep. So Berlanga,
yes,
get a sturdy fighter. Get some rounds in. I'd say try to get 3 fights this year if you can, all against sturdy guys. Take the gas off the pedal a little bit. Still, get your brake foot off of it and just say, you know what? Let me fight this guy at 70%. I'm saying 70% because even 70% you might knock his ass out. Just go 12 rounds. Get some rounds, buddy. I'm with you. I'm following you. I'm with you. 12 rounds, man. 3 fights. Get them all 12 rounds. Hopefully you get something good at the end of all that.
Man, you know what? On that, I'm gonna let you close out on that one. That you made your pitch to your brethren.
Hey, have to, man. It's you watch enough of it, and then you rewatch it again, and then you rewatch it again, and you're like, that boy's gonna be good.
Yeah, man. So I think we're gonna call this one here for this show here. Saturday night, January 30th. Caleb Plant against Caleb Trell. I know
the battle of the Calebs.
Yeah, so like I said, he has a lot in the line. Winner, he sits out for 8 months and get a Canelo fight. The way it's going to look, basically.
Yeah, I like to see him.
Not the winner if he wins, because if Trell wins, it'll probably be a rematch. And then the Canelo story's out the door. Canelo will go after him. He might go after Triple G later on in the year. Maybe a Trell, but he'll get that belt. But that'll be a rematch. So I'm saying like a lot's on the line for him to get the Canelo fight.
I think actually I if Trell somehow pulls this off we have a nice post-fight speculation to talk about it, because we can definitely roll off a bunch of things. Because at the end of the day, whoever wins that fight, one of those two should be rolling Canelo out of their mouth.
Yeah, I think if Trial wins, he gonna call. He's like, you know what though? You get the rematch after I fight Canelo.
Exactly.
I'm gonna sit here.
That's what I'm saying.
I bet you his corner is on the phone with Canelo right here. Canelo, we right here. We ready.
At the end of the day,
we ready. We ain't lift the weights. We'll be sitting here. We'll be at weight right now.
Canelo's goal is to unify the titles. Yeah. I think he can give a crap if it was Caleb Jordan or Caleb Crespo.
No,
he doesn't care. He will fight
us. If we found a way to get the belt, you know,
he wouldn't care. He just wants to go against somebody to get the belt. That's all he's after.
He'd be like, "Here's $1 million. We're coming to San Antonio. Let me get that ass." And I'd be like, "You can have this ass."
Exactly. So at this point, it's not.
That wasn't sexual and on purpose. People just want to know that. You know what I'm trying to say.
Hit that word thing again. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So basically,
I give us the second one on that one.
Yeah, for
that needed more.
2 and 1. Anyways, yeah. Canelo. Canelo's gonna want Plant to win because that's more money there. But ultimately, at the end of it, Canelo doesn't give a shit. He wants the belt. Doesn't care who it is.
Yeah.
You know,
he got his guaranteed minimums. Yep. And it's just the fact that legacy-wise, he of course went the bigger fights, the bigger names. But yeah, I could literally see like if he pulled that off, you know, depending on how Al Heyman got it set up with the contract language, whatever like that, I'll be in this team be like, hey, yo, we're gonna sit here and wait till September.
Yeah.
Or like that old Wyclef Johnson, I'm gone to September, baby. You know, I'm not going to jail. I'm gone to September.
Oh, hit it once every month. You hear that song.
Okay, people. We go end it on that note here.
You're silly as hell.
Yes, we are, man. So we're gonna come back and talk about this fight after the fight happens. So if he wins, Caleb Plant wins, we're gonna be talking about him fighting Canelo in the future. So you know, I hope you guys check out on Fox because we'll have something you guys can check out. If otherwise, we'll still give you the details on the fight anyway.
Sure. Before we close out, I want to give a quick shout out to the live_Domino stream on Twitch. We are streaming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central. Also wanted to mention out there we might be looking to revise that schedule just because of logistical things changing. But at this point, it still is Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Keep an eye out for that possible schedule change in the future.
All right. And also, too, you could check me on another show, Jump Off Live. We stream Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central Time on YouTube. And we're also on all audio podcasts. But also, by saying, no, we stream live Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on YouTube, Jump Off Live. So with that here, I want to say here for Boxing Now Podcast, like and subscribe and hit the bell notification. Because if you do, you know the new episodes come up here. Also, YouTube, I said that, Spotify, follow, and on the Zingo app, channel 250, click on the heart so that you can know when we come up here, and also click on record. So, man, that's a mouthful there.
Do you think if we get a copyright strike if we said sit boo boo sit?
Good dog. No, we ain't getting paid right now. You see how that was like subliminal. He did that on purpose so I could do that. You know what I'm saying? But no, we ain't getting paid right now yet. So we can go ahead and say that until we get a check, and then YouTube got to find that somewhere in the algorithm in the 42-second mark, whatever minute. I'm not going to say right now. I'm not going to make YouTube's life easier here.
Good luck reading that text.
Yeah. So on that, I can't wait to check you guys off for the next episode. For my man Jorge, I'm that dude named Dave, and we are out of here.
You guys have a good night.
Take care.
Be safe. Jazzy